our monuments are truly significant. Monuments do not only hold historical and cultural values, they also have economic value. Bringing it home, Nigeria as a country has a fair share of monuments around the nation. But what are the state of these monuments and how are they contributing to our socio-cultural and economic life? That's what we'll be looking at on today's show. It is Weekend Deal, coming to you live from the network service of the NTA. My name is Patience Eloy Abba, and I'm excited to be here. I am also excited that you've joined us on today's show, and I have one more reason why I am excited. Can you guess? Okay, let me just tell you. Today, I am not home alone. I am with the beautiful, delectable Aisha, looking all radiant.
Oh, thank you so much. And talking about looking radiant, you are so looking teeth today.
Proudly Benue.
Exactly. Well, talking about monuments across the world, you know, Great Wall of China has, like, the moment you say the Great Wall, you don't even have to say China.
We all know it's China.
And then the funny thing is, in Nigeria, in 1974, Guinness Book of World Records actually tagged Benin Moat as, that's popularly known as Iya in Benin. It's the as the second greatest man-made wall in the world. So you see, but then, despite it being rampart by the British in the 1897, I think, or so, and what do we have today? People make use of it as for buildings and all that. How do we preserve that? Nigeria is a country with a lot of tribes and languages, and we have iconic landmarks and monuments across. We need to cherish them.
Indeed, we need to cherish our monuments and our landmarks. But you know how we do it on this show? To know what is happening in and around us, we'll go to the newsroom. And I'm aware that Ifoma is standing by, looking all beautiful too. Good morning to you. It's a ladies' affair today.
Good morning, Patience and Aisha. It's good to see you all looking so radiant. And here's the news bits. Nigeria has promised to render the necessary support and assistance to the Republic of Chad to enable the country fully stabilize and return to constitutional order. President Muhammadu Buhari made the pledge while playing host to the President's Transitional Military Council of Chad. Lieutenant General Mahamat Idris Deby Itno, State House correspondent Adamu Sambo, has the details.
The Chadian transitional leader, Lieutenant General Mahamat Idris Deby Itno, is visiting Nigeria for the first time since coming to power on the 21st of last month. His father and president of the country, Marshal Idris Deby Itno, had died in the battlefield while leading troops to confront insurgents who had come in through Libya. A return to democratic order in the Republic of Chad is expected in 18 months. The transitional leader, General Mahamat Idris Deby, is here to seek ways of deepening and expanding existing relations between Nigeria and Chad in the fight against insecurity and other critical economic sectors. As President Muhammadu Buhari told the visiting leader behind closed doors, we are bound together by culture and geography, and we will help in all ways we can. Chad should not hesitate to ask for help in areas it deemed necessary. Foreign Affairs Minister Geoffrey Onyama was at a high-level engagement.
Mr. President assured him of Nigeria's support. He expressed condolences at the passing of the Marshal. How grateful we are as a country and him personally with the role that Chad and under the Marshal have played in supporting Nigeria in the fight against terrorism, that a lot of the gains that have been made was really because of Chad's very strong support together also with Niger. And, you know, he said that there are two big institutions that are based in Chad. There's the Lake Chad Basin Commission, and there's also the Multinational Joint Task Force, and that Nigeria will, over the next 18 months, continue to strengthen those two institutions, because in strengthening those two institutions is also helping the government of Chad and strengthening Chad.
Lieutenant General Muhammad Idris Deby, who explained to President Muhammadu Buhari circumstances surrounding his coming to power, thanked Nigeria for the solidarity shown after the passage of the former president. The main objective of the Transitional Military Council, he said, is national security and cohesion, as further explained by Geoffrey Onyema.
Well, he briefed Mr. President on the roadmap in Chad, how they came about this succession, and he explained that they've appointed as Prime Minister the leader of the opposition who came second in the elections, and that he has been charged with now organizing free, fair, democratic elections. The most important thing is that we do not have a vacuum in Chad, and that Chad will continue to play a very strong and important role with the side of Nigeria and the other multinational joint forces countries in the battle against terrorism. So that cooperation, I think, is we're now assured that it will continue, and that we need not worry about a political or power vacuum in Chad.
During the visit, the Chadian leader said the Transitional Council is committed to democratic, free and fair polls in 18 months. He assured President Buhari, whom he acknowledged to be very close to his father, that they are ready to be guided by him and indeed Nigeria in their journey to constitutional order. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
In the meantime, President Muhammadu Buhari on Friday called on religious leaders of all faiths and backgrounds to unite in support of the fight against terrorism, kidnapping, banditry, and the novel coronavirus pandemic. The president spoke in response to the Sultan of Sokoto, His Eminence Saad Abubakar III, who called to felicitate with the president on the successful completion of the Ramadan fast and the observance of the Eid. The president called for continuous dialogue between the leaders of the two major faiths for peace and stability to reign in the country. President Buhari commended the Sultan for his effective leadership of the Muslim Ummah and credited him with the unity of the community sustained under his watch. The Sultan pledged his commitment to the continued existence of the country as one and assured the president of the support of the Sultanate in the ongoing efforts to tackle the challenges facing the nation. Now, the World Health Organization has described the FCT administration's response to the COVID-19 pandemic and other health challenges as one of the best in Nigeria. The country representative for Nigeria, Dr. Walter Mulumbo, made this remark when a delegation of WHO paid a visit to the FCT Minister, Mohammed Musa Bello, on some key public health issues. Ifeanyi Izumba has details.
Speaking during the visit, the WHO representative for Nigeria, Dr. Mulumbo, appreciated the leadership of Mohammed Musa Bello in the ongoing COVID-19 response, which he clearly demonstrates his commitment at attaining the highest state of health for the FCT residents.
We also congratulate your efforts in establishing the modular laboratory through public-private partnership to improve access to testing for COVID-19 and other diseases.
FCT Minister Mohammed Musa Bello hailed the WHO office and the FCT for its successes and pledged the administration's support for it and other UN programs within the territory. The minister also made known that emphasis will be placed on budgetary support and counterpart funding in order to improve funding for WHO and other public health-related programs.
We had a huge pool of well-qualified staff at the primary healthcare centers across the area, the FCT, and that have been very helpful. And of course, your cold facilities for storage of all the vaccines for polio have come in very handy for the distribution of the COVID vaccines.
The minister also advised the World Health Organization to continuously engage relevant private sector stakeholders within the country for improved funding of its polio and other programs. In Abuja, Ifeanyi Izumba, NTA News.
Following recent attacks on security personnel and formations in the southeast and south-south regions of the country, Acting Inspector General of Police Usman Alkali Baba is confident that the tide will be stemmed as the force is upscaling its intelligence sharing and collaboration with other security agencies. Security correspondent Francis Form reports that the acting IGP was speaking after a closed-door meeting with the former governor of Bayelsa State and a serving senator, Henry Seriake Dixon, in Abuja.
And hopeful that the narrative will very soon change.
Senator Seriake Dixon, who condemns the attacks on security personnel discharging their lawful duties, calls for an end to the attacks.
As a policeman that I always will be myself, to show support, to show concern, to join in condemning these acts of aggression visited on law-abiding people just doing their best to protect citizens of our country. Police officers and men are your brothers and sisters from across all parts of our country. I was also one of them.
He appeals for more funding for the Nigeria Police Force and assistance from the civilian population to prosecute the internal security challenges. Meanwhile, police in Zamfara State have succeeded in arresting some 5 suspected notorious bandits and kidnappers who have been allegedly terrorizing communities in northern parts of the country over the years. The suspects, including a notorious gun runner from Niger Republic who confessed to have sold more than 4,500 rifles to criminals in Nigeria, were paraded at the State Police Command Headquarters, Gusau. Jamilu Ibrahim has more.
The 5 suspected notorious armed bandits and kidnappers paraded at the Zamfara State Police Command Headquarters Gusau are said to have been terrorizing communities in Zamfara, Kaduna, Katsina, Niger and Kogi states over the years. They were arrested through the efforts of troops of the Federal Intelligence Investigation Bureau and Special Tactical Squad recently deployed to Zamfara State by the Police Force Headquarters Abuja. Also paraded is a driver who allegedly conveys kidnapped victims to the bandits' enclaves and a Nigerian who specializes in supplying sophisticated weapons to bandits in northern part of Nigeria. The notorious gun runner has confessed to have sold no fewer than 4,500 rifles to different gangs of criminals in the region within the past 3 years. One of the paraded suspects, who hails from Niger State and operates within Kagarko in Chukwu local government areas of Kaduna State, says he has been in the crime for more than 3 years and has killed 5 of his kidnapped victims whose families could not afford to pay for ransom.
This suspect, upon interrogation by the police, confessed to other series of kidnappings in Zamfara State, where ransom were said to have been paid.
Items recovered from the suspects include 4 AK-49 rifles, 9 magazines, 960 live ammunitions, and assorted charms, among other exhibits. In Gusau, Jamilu Ibrahim, NTA News.
Federal government's efforts in reviving the real sector in Nigeria is witnessing setback with massive vandalism of railway infrastructure. Oinaya Kaluoka tells us more.
More than 3,000 commuters use this train daily. The Itakpe-Warri rail line, since it was inaugurated in 2020, has recorded more than 200% increase of passengers traffic.
I came from Abuja, actually going to Ghana. Although it's nice, breaking the journey nice, you get more of an experience trying to go through the train.
This rail line, which has brought relief to so many passengers, is now being threatened due to activities of vandals. This latest video shows the act of vandalism of rail tracks at the Itakpe-Warri rail line between the Ajekuta and Itakpe section. The vandals used a saw-like object to cut through the rail line to a point where the pieces could be charted away. There are many more across the country. Both the narrow and standard gauge rail lines are being affected. From Port Harcourt to Enugu, Nasarawa, Makurdi, Lafia, and Kaduna to Zaria, in some cases striping the entire railway track naked. These important components, security agencies said, are sold in the black markets. The Nigerian Railway Corporation disclosed that more than 160 people have been arrested and called on benefiting communities to be proactive in protecting the equipment, as it will cost the federal government billions of naira to replace them. Oyinaya Kalo Oka, NTA News.
The Nigeria Television Authority, NTA, with production centers covering the nooks and crannies of the country, is exploring that capacity to push forward understanding among Nigerians for peaceful coexistence and development. Correspondent Emmanuel Akila reports that this role of broadcast house came to the fore during the visit by the Director General of the NTA to Gombe State.
The management of NTA Gombe Production Center received the Director General, who is on a working visit to monitor operations of the station to ensure that it keeps faith with NTA's mandate to the nation for effective service delivery to Gombe State. In a parley with Governor Muhammad Ino Yahaya, Malam Yakubu Ibn Muhammad emphasizes on synergy to achieve the desired objectives.
Young Gombe State in the northeast region is set on a trajectory of development, and for the policies and programs of the government to be fully implemented, it means all have to be on board, and the Nigeria Television Authority is working together with the state government to achieve this objective.
From Gombe, it takes less than 2 hours from Gombe to reach any of the northeastern state capitals. So Gombe State, occupies a very, strategic place in the northeast. And NTA being the national television, should work with all states that have the advancement of the country at heart, and Gombe State certainly is one of them.
Governor Ino Yahaya appreciates the role of NTA in the efforts of the state government to keep Gombe State peaceful, while the overall security challenge in the northeast region is being contained.
But it doesn't seem we are doing enough in terms of publicity, in terms of showing what we are doing, so that we will be ahead of solving that problem.
Despite challenges, the DJ expressed confidence in the running of NTA Gombe. In Gombe, Emmanuel Akila, NTA News.
And next is sports update.
Tokyo Olympics-bound Elizabeth Ayanacho has continued her intensive preparations towards a podium finish at the Games in Japan, while sparring with 6 of Nigeria's best black belts in a fight camp in Abuja, supervised by 2008 Olympic bronze medalist Chika Chukwumerije.
It's one of the best sections for me right now because I haven't gotten a lot of competition for a while. So this camp right now is very, very good for me because it will help me keep the fighting spirit going.
In football, 4 Nigeria Professional Football League-based players, including Anayo Iwuala and goalkeeper Ikechukwu Ezenwa, have been included in the 31 provisional list of players invited by Super Eagles technical advisor Gernot Rohr ahead of the international friendly between Nigeria and Cameroon at Vienna Neustadt in Vienna, Austria on June 4. Others invited are Leicester City's duo of Wilfred Ndidi and Kelechi Iheanacho, just as Kano Pillars forward Ahmed Musa, France-based Terem Murphy and Paul Onuachu made the cuts. Meanwhile, Nigerians are drumming support for Enyimba International of Aba ahead of their CAF Confederation Cup encounter against Pyramids FC of Egypt on Sunday. The People's Elephants arrived North Africa Friday for the first leg quarter-final with the full complement of players, as the country's sole representative remaining in this season's CAF club competitions.
The 2-time African champions, we have to do everything to make sure they are back in the winning ways. It's been long they tasted winning in their outings. Don't forget the last 2 matches, the outstanding they play in the NPFL, they lost the 2 matches.
To the English Premier League now, Southampton welcome already relegated Fulham on Saturday at 2:30 p.m. in a match that will be live on the NTA network. Also, West Ham United's quest for European football next season will be tested when they visit Brighton at the MX Stadium. With sports updates, Ayodeji, Makinde, NTA News.
And that concludes the news beat. And to learn more about monuments, let's rejoin Patience and Aisha for the rest of Weekend Deal.
Thank you so much, Ifoma. Okay, before we talk monuments, let's still talk about the headlines, and we'll be taking a look at our newspapers. I'll begin with the Saturday Telegraph. Oil prices suffer biggest daily drop in 1 month. That story is on page 4 and 6 of Saturday Telegraph. And next to that is a picture of a legend here. It says, 40 years on, Bob Marley transcends time, generations due to his message. That is by Jamaican envoy Reed. That is on page 12. And below the nameplate, we have a big story here. Anglican Communion. Forces in North makes tackling insecurity difficult. Says Buhari didn't meet structures to work with. Nigerian train heading for disaster needs redirection now. Prayer's ultimate solution to insecurity challenge, says Shehu of Borno. These are some of the riders, and the story is on page 2 and 3. Beside the big story, we have some story lined up here. Omoren, tears as remains of murdered job seeker interred. That is so sad. May her soul continue to rest in peace, and may we never witness anything like that again. It's just so sad. Then we said the next story says $6.5 million fraud. Track down Buhari's son-in-law, PDP tells ICPC. And then they say he's no longer the president's son-in-law. Under that we have another story, genocide looms in southeast, south. XDG Okoye. And next to that we have JAMB may shift 2021 UTME as over 600,000 yet to register. Okay, and then below the stories, we have some story here. We have a greenfield adoption. We can't afford 160 million, assistors parents urge federal government. Under that, southern governors writing calling for federation review at Adegboruwa, Ananaba. That is on page 2. And then next to that, we have an Afenifere to Buhari. Resign now before you plunge Nigeria into crisis. Says there must be restructuring before thinking of holding 2023 elections. That is on page 5. We quickly move to Leadership Weekend. And I'll start with the story on top of the nameplate. It says, INEC to hold emergency meeting over attacks on officers. I would have joined the Air Force if I wasn't a pilot. This is a picture of a very beautiful pilot here. And that story is on page 30. Next to that, under the nameplate, directly under the nameplate, NNPC six firms to operate, maintains Nigerians refineries. That is on page 7. Then this big one here says, despite dwindling revenue, states waste billions on viable projects. That is on page 4. And I think there's some writers here. Over 45 inherited multi-billion naira projects abandoned. Experts warn against borrowing to fund white elephant projects. Okay, I think that's all is on page 4. Then we have a picture here of our president with the president of Chad. Next to that, we have despite plans to extend UTME, popularly known as JAMB, 600,000 candidates still battle with JAMB registration. That is on page 7. And the last stories I'll be taking here. COVID-19 Premiership Club records billions of pounds in losses. Okay, COVID-19 Premiership clubs record billions of pounds in losses. That is on page 12. NAF kills bandits, destroyed camps in Kaduna. That is on page 11. Simple guide to grow your wealth in 2021. That is on page 16. And that's all I have. Aisha.
Yes. Quite interesting stories there.
Yes.
And I still have 2 papers here with me. I'm starting with Saturday Sun. Right beside the masthead. $65 million fraud. Buhari's son-in-law declared wanted Earlier you mentioned in your paper that he's no longer the son-in-law of the president. Details on the right page. On page 10, beside that story, Southern governors, how will enforce open grazing ban? Details on page 27. Under that story to my left, why I murdered a Akwa Ibom job seeker suspect. Quite, I don't even want to talk about this story. We discussed it some time back last week. It's so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Details on page 3. Beside that story, Sheyi Tinubu, my passion pains as Asiwaju's son. If you want to read more, go to pages 13 and 14 of the Saturday Sun. Under that story, IPOB, panic in southeast, south over military clampdown. Residents, journalists, newspaper vendors live in fear. Move may lead to anarchy. Ohaneze orders warn federal government. Details of all these on page 29 of the Saturday Sun. Under that story, NAF kills bandits in Kaduna, destroy hideouts. Details on page 28. There's a picture of an actress here advising people on a personal level. I don't want to go into all that details, but then if you want to read more, you can look for that. And quickly on to Weekend Sporting Sun. I'm not good with sports stories, so you forgive my some of the names if I mother them. FA Cup, Chelsea versus Leicester, 5:15 p.m. History beckons on Ehenacho Ndidi as Rogers dares Tuchel at Wembley. Details, this is the first story, the big story on the Sporting Sun. Now to my left, we have a story, Chelsea hands Tuchel £150 million transfer budget. Wow, that's huge. Beside that story, Spurs put £150 million price tag on Kane. Details on center page. Under that story, Nigeria moves within 5 places of qualifying for Olympic relay. Details on page 2. Beside that story, Liverpool wants £80 million for Salah. Are you hearing these pounds, these millions that they are calling? My head is
spinning.
Well, now to my right a bit. International friendly. Raw names Musa Ekong. 29 orders for Cameroon. Details on page 2. Under that story, Ehenacho loses ELP award to Lingard. Well, Ehenacho has been in the news quite often now. True. And he's making us proud.
Yes.
Details on page 2. The Tigress to defend Afrobasket title in Cameroon. That's nice. Details on page 2 also. On page 2 again, Total CAF Federation Cup Eyimba off to Egypt for Pyramids tie. Now, beside that story, Chelsea in talks with Haaland's father. Details on back page. Under that story, Hearn, Joshua will demolish Fury. Details on back page. I'm looking forward to this particular game because since last year we have been hearing about it.
Yeah.
Okay. And now to my right, top, right, Messi house hunts in Paris. Details on back page. If you go to center page, Aguero set for huge Barca pay cut. Under that story, Paris Saint-Germain signals interest in Ramos. Now, the last story on Sporting Sun is Kroen's faces COVID-19 threat. Details on the back page. Well, that's the much we have on the news here. The show continues after this time out. Don't go anywhere.
My name is Chikwe Ihekwazu. I lead the Nigeria Center for Disease Control. I'm extremely privileged to have gotten this vaccine today. Really, I accept it really on behalf of all the healthcare workers, public health workers. I've really spent the last 12 months working so incredibly hard on this response. And I think it provides hope. You know, this vaccine really provides us an opportunity to reinvigorate ourselves as we sustain the response in Nigeria. So this vaccine provides us a real shot at life. But, you know, that shot will come into effect when we have most of the population vaccinated. We have to keep washing our hands, wearing our masks, keeping apart from each other until we have enough people vaccinated in the country. And I'm sure we'll get there.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous. Whether you do it for fun or for political gains, real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
Fulham travel to St Mary's after the heartbreak of relegation. Will they have any heart left to put up a fight against Southampton? This Saturday, it's Southampton versus Fulham on the Premier League Live, showing on the network service of the NTA from 2:30 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Baba Ijebu in association with Goal.com.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, it is Weekend Deal coming to you live from the network service of the NTA. And today on the show, our focal point is on our cities and our monuments around. Okay, you know how I like definitions. I like to know what words mean. Even words that are simple, I like to know exactly what they mean. And I just went to find out what the meaning of the word monuments. And this is what I got. A monument is a building, structure, or a site that is of historical importance or interest. That's the simple definition. But our next feature, which is the backgrounder put together by Francis Ogbe, will not only tell us the definition, but tell us the need to preserve our monuments. Let's see this together.
Nigeria is a culturally diverse country with over 250 local languages. These various cultures have rich histories and backgrounds, and the local people are incredibly proud of their heritage. The heritage comes in the form of ancient places of worship, artifacts, old towns, buildings, and monuments, to mention a few.
National monuments had to be preserved because the preservation shows that we are just coming from somewhere for the future generation and generations yet unborn. If you leave them intact, they have questions. Who built this? Some were built by the British, the colonial masters. And you tell them these were built by the British, that they left us about 60-something, 100 and something years ago. that becomes a big reminder on historical lane that humanity is founded some millions of years ago, and each epoch wants to be remembered by what it is known for. A lot of people, even in their own family compounds, instead of going ahead to set up a new structure, they start breaking down the one built by their grandfather, not knowing that that is the relics. That's the ancient monument where you're coming from. That's the symbol of your grandfather. That yes, your grandfather lived, yes, it's not as big as what they are building today, but it's also good to preserve it so that the children unborn will know that this is their thinking. This is the architecture of their grandfather who died about 100 years ago. So it's preserved in some parts of the world, but unluckily for us in Nigeria, we don't know what to do with history.
Nigeria, a nation rich in culture, has no shortage of historical buildings, monuments and landmarks, as some have made the list of UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Here are a few examples. Mary Slessor House, Calabar. National War Museum, Abia. First story building in Nigeria, Badagry. Ancient Nok Settlement, Kaduna. Ancient Kano City Walls, and the Ubunike Cave in Anambra.
It becomes very disturbing that in most cities, especially secretariats that were built by the British, with solid, some red bricks, some hard furnitures and others, and you see them being demolished in the name of a new secretariat, on what they call the urban renewal. Most remarkable, as far as I remember, is those the regional secretariats in Enugu, in Ibadan, in Kaduna. I don't forget those regional secretariats. It gives me a big impression. And in front of them as well, you could also find some monuments, either tiger or lions. But most of the time, you do not find them anymore. I remember how beautiful the Tafawa Balewa Square in Lagos used to be. But these days, they are trying to mangle what they thought is not a good idea. But to me, which is an ancient monument, a symbol of the relics of that era.
There is need for conscious and guided interventions in city heritage protection, as many of these structures are fast wasting away. The attrition rate of the structures are easily perceived from the ease with which such sites and structures are replaced with new projects.
The monuments might not fall in your own thinking, but for God's sake, you leave it as it is, build a new one that reflects your own perception of what is excellent. You find somebody who will do a demarcation of thoughts. I might return to the old relics.
Assessing the prospect of heritage land use and conservation of old historical buildings, sites and monuments cannot be overemphasized, for cultural heritage is often seen as an important asset for the development of the local environment. Also, it determines tourism and investment attractiveness of such sites.
There's no emir that said if you build another castle that nobody will enter there, you will not enter there. You can build it once in a while, you stay in the new ones. Once in a while, you host people in the old one. What are you doing? You are doing advancement. You are trying to develop the place. Instead of hooking up in one place and trying to demolish an ancient symbol. Because these are symbolic. That's why they have what is called World Heritage. Why is the Egyptian castles being visited? You will never see them to change the structure or call whatever you call blend. They don't blend anything. Rather, they have architects and builders whose business is to try to maintain it in the shape that it was found earlier in the day. Why do you do so? It's because of the historical nature, the value bequeathed on what our grandfathers did.
Our focus on Weekend Deal today will be on our cities, our monuments.
Indeed, our cities, our monuments. Now, think of this. 137 years ago. That's a century and more than a quarter ago. And that is the age of the first government house in Nigeria in the city of Calabar. How are the people of Calabar treating this first government house? Let's take a look at NTA Calabar's report on this iconic building and other monuments around Calabar.
Structures and objects with historical, cultural, scientific, and archaeological value are commonly found in our environment. Some are given necessary protection for the sake of posterity, while others are yet to receive such consent. In Cross River State of Nigeria, there are several iconic symbols and places of value which have been discovered and given appropriate recognition, gaining the status of national monuments. These include the Independence Statue, Basuduke Effigy, Maurice Lazo House and Tomb, Duketown Presbyterian Church, Hubbardle Premier Block, monoliths, Old Residency Museum, among others.
In monument preservation, we don't change. We allow it to remain the way it is. You don't deface monuments, because by the time you deface monument, the value will not be there again.
A prefabricated building made in 1884 in Britain and shipped to Calabar, which served as Nigeria's first government house, existing over 137 years. The old residency was first used as the administrative head office and residence of the colonial administrators. It later became the administrative headquarters of southern Nigeria before the seat of government moved to Lagos. This building served as a ministerial guest house in the 1950s and as administrative headquarters of the East Wales South Eastern State after the Nigerian Civil War. Due to the major roles which it has played in the history of Nigeria, this structure was declared a national monument in 1959. Today, it is housing the National Museum and the Old Residency Calabar, established in 1986. Apart from its inbuilt gallery, the Old Residency Museum also holds a museum shop, exhibition hall, museum village, and a special library. One of the outstanding features of this movement is the historical prison for traditional rulers who opposed the then colonial government, where the popular Oba of Arawon-Baise of Benin was detained.
So till today, the cell is still there, but we are using part of it now as a cyber cafe. So it's the kind of modernization. When visitors come to, we take them to that place. So they were also planning to have, a gallery, an exhibition that talks about the Oba of Benin.
This prestigious building has benefited from some routine maintenance through yearly allocative government resources. Aside colonial history, the gallery has experienced the introduction and acceleration of exhibition on the Cross River region, nature and culture, with Calabar terracottas, which are the oldest in Nigeria. This is an indigenous technology that has existed in this area between the 5th to the 16th century. Though still standing, it calls for more attention from stakeholders.
Our monuments are our history, and it is who we are, and the need to preserve them can never be overemphasized. Now, in Lagos, in 1869, the first cathedral was built. Also, the first historic building in Nigeria was built in Badagry. Have you ever wondered what the status of that building is? NTA Network Center has done a feature on it. I really want to see. Let's see it together.
Tafawa Balewa Square, formerly known as Residency, one of the rich monuments that reminds Lagosians of the colonial incursion and the struggle for independence. Presently, the 14.5-hectare ceremonial ground still reminds many Nigerians of how excited they were when the Union Jack was lowered, paving way for the Nigerian flag to be hoisted for the first time in October 1st, 1960. Indeed, one of Nigeria's monuments, which is synonymous to our national history, that can be eroded if deliberate efforts are not in place to preserve it.
Some of them are dilapidated to the level that we have to retouch them, but it will still maintain the normal original look. On four-story building, this is the architectural design. So this is the premises. By the time we finish, this is how the premises will look like, without touching the four-story building itself, because within the compound, there's enough space there. This is how it will look like. And it's going to have pavilion, because there's enough. So if we have crowd, people can sit down there and relax. So this is the building, the four-story building itself.
Looking at the bookshop house on Broad Street, Lagos, one can easily assume that it is an ordinary structure. However, the technology that was used in the construction reveals that between the hours of 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., direct sun rays cannot get to the building, a technology that budding architects can emulate in this day construction industry. The Deputy Managing Director, CSS Bookshop Limited and Bookshop House Limited, Adegbola Additional, reveals more uniqueness about the structure.
Let me make a clarification first. There are two companies here. There's CSS Bookshops Limited that started in 1869 by Church Missionary Society, CMS. And it started as a training company that provides materials for the use of schools, for missions, and so on. As time went on, after introducing religion by the Anglican Church, CSS Bookshop Limited is owned by the Anglican Church, Church of Nigerian Communion. So it introduced, after the missions, they introduced education. Now that made the company to trade also in books, literature, Bibles, and so on, to serve both the missions and schools. The building itself started in 1973 when the foundation was laid and was being built. But before then, the bookshop had operated in some places, not far from this place. The time it was commissioned, Bookshop House here was the tallest building on the highland. And the floor, the up, that is the roof, was it's an helipad. And the technology of this building is that if there is fire, it cannot extend to the next floor. At a time in the Nigerian history, when the Governor General sits, the Managing Director of CSS Bookshop Limited will sit next to him. And when the budget of the country is being crafted, CSF Bookshop Limited will be consulted.
The cathedral building on Marina, Lagos Island, the oldest Anglican cathedral in Nigeria, built in 1869, houses the relics of Reverend Dr. Samuel Ajayi Crowther, a former enslaved Yoruba man who became the first African bishop in the Anglican Church. For a fact, strategic plans that revolves around these relics and monuments in terms of tourism development in Lagos State cannot be overemphasized.
We are talking to some consultants, as I rightly said, that if we say government should do everything, virtually we can't achieve. So it's going to be PPP project that look, okay, this monument, handle it, this is what you can get back to the government as revenue. So that's what we are looking at. Fela's shrine, we are trying to discuss with the family, because it's one of the shrine itself is one of the monuments that we have to preserve and keep.
Indeed, our ancient places of worship, buildings, relics, and monuments are treasures worthy of preserving for future generations to come.
Preservation of these historical monuments cannot be overemphasized. All hands must be put on deck in order to see that we preserve such monuments. And talking about monuments, okay, before that, I know some people, there is a controversy that the first-story building is not in Lagos, it's in Kogi. Well, I leave it to you to go and find out the details of that. But then we're still talking about our cities, our monuments, and one city, one state that has gathered a lot of monuments is Niger State, Zungeru to be precise, the village or town of Zungeru. What do they have for us? They have Lord Luga's house there. We have the first birthplace of Nigeria's first president, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, and also the late Odumegwu Ojukwu. Let's take a look at that.
British forces occupied Zungeru in September 1902, which was then populated by the Gwari. On arrival to Zungeru, the British colonialists cleared the savannah forest area and established military barracks, hospital, residential quarters, and market, among other things. In 1902, the British colonial administrators constructed a dam for the supply of drinking treated water for the control of waterborne diseases. The treated water is stored in tanks that supply the various water channels to barracks, hospital, residential quarters. The same dam was used to generate electricity in the city, and both light and water were made available for 24 hours daily throughout the period of their stay in Zungeru.
All the places are vandalized. 10 years back, if you have been here, all that reservoir, you will see them there. If you look at up there, there is tanks that are distributing the water. So the water are treated. The one is for distributed the water, and where one is generating the electricity.
The train used during the period were driven by coal engines, with their repair workshop and coal warehouse still traceable today. While the first engine train head was brought to Minna train station as a monumental property. Lugard, who was then Governor General, built officers' mess for Africans, for Europeans, and for himself. Although nearly all of the building, which has dilapidated and fallen, can still be traceable by some features such as the cemented tables and flower pot in his residence and the swimming pool he built in his residence for himself and his family members.
Recently, we have so many leftovers of things and structures and buildings and monuments and structures that they left behind. The first swimming pool is still there. If you go, but there is no water inside anyway. But the swimming pool is there, and that was the first in the whole of West Africa, I'm sure. And we have buildings. We still have the colonial officers' mess. The building is still there, though dilapidated. But when you go there, you will see structures that are still there.
And Lugard was asked, how about the structures you put in Zungeru? How do we do with them? He said they should be left to rot away. Left to rot away.
I'm standing at the birthplace of Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe. I'm standing at his own pet house where he was born. This is the building. It is a 3-bedroom flat. These are the remains of the building.
Zik attended his early primary education in Zungeru. The school, which is still in existence to this day, has undergone some renovations.
The nice thing is that we have preserved them with the aim of, I don't want to say remodeling, but certainly we don't want to destroy them, except for those that have been broken down. What do I use? What do I use? Because of long stay and non-use.
Anglican Church was also built by the British administrators in 1905 and was also the church attended by Zeke's father while in Zungeru. The old structure still stands.
I'm standing at the birthplace of Brigadier General Odumegu Ojukwu, the Ikemba of Inui. This is his birthplace. This is where he was born. This is the building of the houses where he was born.
Today, there are nearly 170 landmarks that are traceable to the British administrators in Zungeru, while others might have been tampered with by road construction, vandalization, or decay.
Welcome back to the studio. Today it's an all-ladies affair. We have our first guest in the house, and she is Mrs. Ann Nanadi Dogo. She is a Deputy Director, Research and Documentation, Department of Arts and Culture, FCTA. Madam, you're welcome to Weekend
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you.
So our conversation today has been all about monuments and the significance they hold in our lives. Do we have museums in the FCT?
Yes, we have a museum in FCT. The Department for Arts and Culture houses a museum for FCT.
Okay.
Yes.
Where is it located? What's...
Okay, this museum is in the Cultural Center, Cyprian Ekwensi Cultural Center, Area 10.
Okay.
Yes, it's housed there.
Okay. What kind of things would we see there if we go there? Actually, I've not been to a museum. Sorry, I've not been before. I'm confessing on national TV. So if I'm going to go there, what kind of things do I expect to see?
Okay, like what you see in our museum, basically, you'll see the ethnohistory of the people of FCT. You know, in our museum also. Our museum also boasts of a photo gallery of leaders, ministers, and ministers of states of the FCT from inception, the permanent secretaries, the DGs that have served in FCT. We have that. And also have the leadership of Nigeria from the amalgamation of Lord Lugard of 1st January 1914 till date, the leaders of the country till date, to the present President Muhammadu Buhari. Okay, we also boast of the pictures of all of those leaders from then to date.
Quite historical. And you know, when we talk about our cities, our monuments, I know today's topic will definitely touch the hearts of many, because it will take others back memory lane, as in the older ones. They will start to remember, oh, I know this, oh, I know this, when this used to be in its full glory. And then the younger ones will actually think of, actually we have this. How do you think we can blend the traditional and modernization of all these monuments?
Okay, talking about monuments, I don't think we, in my opinion, many of that in Abuja, but we have the Taruga iron smelting site, you know, that dates like 500 years BC.
Wow,
Yes.
500 years.
BC, yes. It was discovered by some certain persons who were doing some kind of mining in Taruga, and they stumbled into this the iron smelting site, and it was dated back to about 500 years before Christ. You know, you can be, it's a very long time. So that kind of technology was already taking place here. You know, so the structure where they were living, and as they were doing their mining and everything, is there. Such a place should be kept as a monument, and the Department for Arts and Culture, FCT, is aware of that, have been going there, is trying to secure the place properly, and to be able to keep our history, you know, to let people know that the people who lived around here, within this space, you know, had known this much technology way back. And so that's what we're doing. And we have, I think, the Ladi Kwali residence, okay, who should also, because she's famous for pottery, you know, should be a monument, you know. But what we're trying to do to blend the old and the new,
yes,
that we're doing is to, we're being deliberate about pottery, you know, in the FCT. We have a center in Ushafa, pottery.
Okay.
Then we also have a studio back here in Area 10 for making pots and everything. More so that we are seeing the importance of using some of the things that we have left behind, and considering that either we are like imbibing the modern things rather than, you know, maintaining some of those good old practices that are beneficial to us. Like, for instance, the interaction of water and clay. We know that clay by nature is alkaline, and when it mixes with water, you know, it helps to the pH level of the water balance, which makes the water healthier for us to take.
That's a very good one. I didn't know that. So are you telling me that water in port, I'm digressing a little bit, forgive me, that water in our local ports are healthier than the one in our refrigerators and our dispensers?
By far healthier.
Oh God.
Mind you,
Aisha, I'm going to get a pot today. I'm getting a pot.
Mind you, you know, the dispensers come in plastic and everything. You know what plastic does to us. And we should begin to like go use materials that are biodegradable, you know, to be environmentally friendly, to go green, because we have just one wall and we have to leave it for the next generation. And of course, if we have to be healthy, we have to be able to, like, the closer to nature, the better. So we are planning an exhibition. We were supposed to do this exhibition on the 23rd of May, you know, in to mark the World Culture Day, you know, but because of the COVID protocols, that has been postponed until further notice. So if you come for the exhibition, you see a lot of water pots with taps, with, you know, trying to encourage people to make it easier for them to have in their kitchens and everything. And a number of restaurants, you know, come around to buy eating, you know, wares from us, to because people are coming to the realization for the need to get closer to nature in the things we use. You know, if you use plastics, you throw them away, you know what that does to our environment. But when you use earthen, you know, one is healthy for you to use them, and then even when you discard them, they just go back to the earth.
Well, yes, talking about going back to the earth, we just saw a feature here about the first government house in Nigeria. It's dated 137 years. So let's go a little bit into the future.
They'll become monuments.
Exactly. In years to come, like buildings, a lot of buildings here in Nigeria, in the FCT, like the Secretariat, many buildings here, maybe Eagle Square. As we progress, we build and we move. Is there any plan to preserve these buildings as monuments in later to come in the FCT?
Well, I don't know anything about that, but I'm sure that most of the things that have been built, because FCT is quite new, you know, as a new capital, so most of the things are not obsolete per se, and, well, obsolete in quotes, because what we call obsolete is what turns out to be, you know, monuments and everything. They are old, you know. Exactly. So we, so far, like, for instance, the example you made, the Eagle Square is still there, and the old, like my office where they started in Area 10 is still there, and we're still using it as cultural activities. So at least over time, we'll be able to say, okay, this is a monument, this was where they started and everything. Then we are in the new place. And for us within the cultural space, we know that you don't change things, but you restore things. You know, you don't change them, but you restore them. Yes. So you do some restoration to make sure they are up to date, like some maintenance, some renovation and everything, but you don't pull down the buildings in order to put new buildings. So whatever is there that is supposed to be a monument, the FCT is aware, the Department for Arts and Culture is aware that we are supposed to look out for such things and encourage that they not be destroyed, because they're part of our history, but rather should be restored. If they are old and falling apart, they should be restored and not destroyed to build new things.
That's still talking about looking into the future, and we should not destroy but restore our monuments. Restore our monuments. I think one of the monuments that has been standing for a long time, it's in the ancient city of Kano, and we are talking about Kano ancient city walls. And we'll take a report from NTA Kano on this. And don't forget, our program is interactive. Do send us your messages. After this report, we'll continue with the Deputy Director here.
History reconnects past with present. It relates some of the most significant events that happened in the past so that the present societies will appreciate the past cultures that evidently led to their emergence. And most of such history is often expressed through symbolic representations, monuments, artifacts, and other historic sites that tell so much about our past. The ancient city of Kano is today one of many cities around the world that has successfully preserved some of the historic monuments, relics, and artifacts that attract many people from within and outside Nigeria. Ancient city wall of Kano is one of the monuments that falls under UNESCO classified international historic sites. This is part of the ancient city wall of Kano, one of the most important historical monuments in West Africa. It was established at the end of the 12th century. And as you can see, it has a radius of 14 kilometers and a height of 15 feet. It was established by the then rulers of Kano primarily for security and defense purposes.
The history shows that, like before, the setting of the people is almost war. Everywhere is war. That's why you see that some people live in caves. Some go to mountains and live and so on. So because of the fearing of attack. So what the people of Kano did, so with their own technology of that time, so they have to surround the whole city with a wall.
The technology used in building this great wall, no doubt, shows how sophisticated and highly skilled the ancient people of Kano were.
So if an enemy is coming, you know he will not come through the ditches. He must look for the gate. And the gate there, that's where the soldiers are. And if you look at the city wall, there are some holes like this. So that one, it was where the soldiers of then Kano, where the soldiers will stand looking at the enemies. If the enemies are coming from far distance, even some kilometers away, even more than 20 kilometers, because they will see the crowd is coming with the dust that is coming up. So they will know that, okay, they will be suspecting that something is coming.
Gidan Makama at the city center of Kano was built during the reign of Muhammad Rumfa, the then ruler of Kano, in the year 1440, and that was his residence. But today it serves as a national museum keeping custody of ancient artifacts and relics.
All these rooms that you are seeing, it has been used. So it has been used as part of the palace. Even this where we are sitting now here, it was if the emir want to relax in the evening, this way that he comes and sit down.
Looking at the architectural design of these ancient buildings, one cannot but appreciate the artistic mastery of the ancient people of Kano. Our next destination is one of the most important historic sites in Kano, a place that had once been the socio-economic drive of the ancient Kano. This is Kovarmata dye pit here in Kano. This place has been here since 1498, and as you can see, it is in this place that they dye fabrics of different indigo colors that have been so much prized, not only in Nigeria, but across West Africa.
In the olden day, up to now, this place is not relying only Nigeria. We rely on our neighboring country, like West Africa and Europe, and the American too. So locally, most of the Nigerian, most of the southern people, like southeast and the south-south, they are buying a lot of production in Upper Matadine Pit.
Today, about shekara 70 ko 80 da soma wannan aikin. Dan ya faka ma.
I have been on this job for over 70 years and I'm still on it. I inherited it from my father, who inherited it from his great-grandfather. How about your children? Are they into the business? Yes, of course they are. Had you been here in the morning, you would have seen them. If government will invest in this business, they will earn a lot of income, and we will also benefit more.
Throughout history, Kano has been extremely skilled in weaving and dyeing of cotton cloth and is still flourishing, but not without challenges.
So the problem we're facing here, a lot of Nigerian people, there's no patronizing our own mates. That is the problem we're facing. If Nigerian people, they are to buy our own production, so you can see any pit is often somebody's action inside.
Welcome back. Our first guest is still in the house, and like I told you earlier, it is a women's affair. We are all three women in the studio today. Our guest is Mrs. Nadi Dogo. She is the Deputy Director, Research and Documentation. While the Kano story was going on, Aisha told us some stories about the Kano War. I don't know. I'm still thinking about it. But let me go straight to the question of today. Tourism, does our museum and monuments in FCT, do they have any tourist value? Do they attract tourism?
Okay, you know, like I would want to say very little about the monuments because I've told you about the Taruga that is not fully developed yet, but the site is there. But you know, you don't just have like a monument and just expect people to just start trooping there until you create some attraction around the place. So we're working on that. So before you are able to create an attraction around the place, you will not experience lots of traffic going there. So we are aware of that, and we're trying to see what we can do that's possible. But the museum that we have has lots of patronage. You know, we have lots of students that come, you know, to see what we have, and we are also in collaboration. Our museum is really tailored to meet the curriculum needs of the students around the FCT, and they come to check. Like we also have collaborations with some organizations, like with CBN. We have this collaboration for them to, let us know how money has evolved in Nigeria, the evolution of money, and they've given us some samples encased in acrylic that we have on display from, our old currencies to what we have, the different changes, that underwent to what we have today. Then with NIPOS also we have a collaboration with them to do a stamp, to have the stamps, and we have some of their stamps, but we want to do a quarterly stamp exhibition in thematic areas. Like for instance, let's talk about health. They've brought us stamps to support the fight against infectious diseases, like the one for COVID came out not too long ago, and things like that. So with that, to actually attract students, to our museum, yes. Okay. And because we have a library that supports the museum, researchers also come that want to work within the cultural space to assess the materials, art journals and materials they will need for the research work that they're doing. So we have all kinds of tourists, educational tourists, and just even tourists for sightseeing.
Are you online? Is your museum online? Can I view you from my phone?
We are working.
With this COVID, I mean.
Yes, we are working on that. We are working on that. We will soon be online. Okay, everything we're doing around us will soon be online, so that people can see what we are doing, and then before they can come physically to have a feel of what we have on ground.
Okay, so
well,
Aisha is waiting
yes,
with some messages.
We have two messages here. Okay. One is saying, "I love your presenters." Oh, thank you. Okay. Thank you. We love you too. And then another one here is, "Good morning all. Eid Mubarak." Yeah, Eid Mubarak to you too. I love this morning discussion because I love monumental things. From Tunde from Oyo. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Well, okay, there's another one here. Good morning, my presenters. My name is Magnus Wuma from Port Harcourt, Rivers State. I want to ask if there are no monumental structures in Rivers State, or River State is not consulted. Well, I believe across Nigeria we have monuments and everywhere. It's not only like for us, for you too, you can go in search of this. As you've heard in the FCT, just years back, we discovered about 500 before Christ monumental site that was discovered recently. So you can also go in search of that. Well, what's the way forward when we talk about museums and we talk about monumental structures in Nigeria? What do you think? What's the way forward? What's your, in preserving, also in line with preservation of monumental structures?
Okay, just like I said earlier, that restoration is the key word here, and we should pay attention to. I think I was pointed at somewhere in Lokoja that is the first, that, and the state in which it was looking didn't look good, and there was another documentary, I think by NTA, showing us Zungeru, and that didn't look good either, and everything. So what I'm saying is that we have experts, lots of experts that are good with restoration work. Government should engage the experts to restore some of those areas and keep them looking good for the next generation. And so that should apply to every other monument, and artifacts anyway. Because we have also some artifacts that we are not recovered or received, so to say, because we had collaboration with some of these construction companies, especially Beggar, that gave us some of the artifacts they stumbled into in the course of the massive construction that was going on in FCT. So, that is still open. We expect that if any artifact is found, will be sent to us. So for us to be able to clean up, restore, and then present to the people.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
much from you. It's interesting to know that FCT has a fair share of monuments, and that and a museum that we can visit, and by God's grace, soon begin to visit online. I insist, visit online.
By the way, let me quickly add, we have so many sites, like some caves around.
Caves?
Yes, Buhari Area Council and everything. So there are things that we're looking into to be able to develop, so that for the Department of Tourism to begin to advertise, to market, for people to know that there are lots of sites in FCT that we're working on it. We're trying to see how we can do to make them, attractive to people to begin to visit.
Okay, thank you so much for coming in. You've talked so much about our museums and the potentials that the FCT holds as far as that is concerned. Now, tomorrow, this conversation will continue tomorrow because we're expecting the DigiTourism who will come in. Okay, our next guest, our second guest, I've just been corrected by my producer, is a DigiTourism who will be telling us so much about what the tourism potentials are in the FCT. We'll go on a short break. When we come back, we continue to deal. Don't go away. Well done.
My name is Alhaji Lai Mohammed, the Minister of Information and Culture. I just received my first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine, and I'm glad I did so. This vaccine has been proven to be safe and efficacious. And as long as we take this vaccine and we continue to obey the COVID-19 protocols, such as frequent washing of hands, use of sanitizer, wearing of masks in public places, keeping social distancing, avoiding gatherings, we are sure going to beat COVID-19.
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Life can be very eventful. We curiously expect things to happen, even when we don't know what. Our human nature makes us like and repost lots of information. Some are unverified, inciting anger and hate. Sometimes innocently, other times the urge to break it first. This, in most cases, has caused destruction in many nations.
Fulham travel to St Mary's after the heartbreak of relegation. Will they have any heart left to put up a fight against Southampton? This Saturday, it's Southampton versus Fulham on the Premier League Live, showing on the network service of the NTA from 2:30 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Baba Ijebu in association with Goal.com.
Well, thanks for staying tuned. Yes, don't forget our program is interactive. You can send in your messages and we will read them. Yes, we're talking about our city, our monuments. And when we talk about monuments, when you look at, let's say Lagos, for example, it's a metropolitan city. One wonders, with the buzzing of daily lives activities, one wonders, is there any tourism potential in Lagos? And NTA ETV put together this for us to see the potential of tourism in Lagos. Let's take a look.
Lagos, a mega city, tourist attraction, and a land of opportunities. A city with endless choices of sights, sounds, and activities. Our monuments tell us a story of what happened in the past and promotes the respect for those who lived in different times. How well do we preserve our monuments, particularly our old buildings constructed by our forefathers? Our monuments are considered to be old-fashioned. Most structures are now being demolished and renovated by those who inherited them and are supposed to preserve such buildings as a legacy for the children.
We have buildings that belong to the government, and we have buildings, older buildings that belong to individuals. Individuals are meant to do whatever they think is right of them. At a point, they think needs restructuring. Most of the olden days buildings are a floor and 2 floors building respectively. And in this modern day time, there are going to be a kind of development on the existing structures.
Main problem in Lagos, inconsistency one. Then a lot of women, a lot of wives, a lot of children that doesn't have love within themselves will cause a lot of problems to destroy the building, sell it out, like many in my area now, they've sold it out.
Definitely, Lagos is a metropolitan city. Development keeps on coming up every day. And what I would say is that there are many reasons for those monuments to be demolished, either by the descendants of the owner or as a result of government acquisition.
Our monuments tell us stories of our past events and how well we preserve them for the future. Preserving our old buildings is important because without a doubt, these monuments are the reflection of our history and helps us understand and respect people who lived in different eras.
I mean, there should be preservation of our building to serve as a monument, and for our children yet unborn, to see, the legacy that their forefathers left behind.
Our buildings are historical and give people a sense of place and connection to the past. It is important to protect and preserve our old buildings so we can learn about our historical background and keep a legacy for our children yet unborn.
One of the best ways to preserve our legacy for children yet unborn to see is to perhaps, number one, maintain the properties, maintain the building. We can modernize it. We can give it the basic modernization required, so that when it is reasonably modernized, it will stay longer than expected, and then our children yet unborn can see.
Our monuments represent our history and identity, our bond to the past, to our present, and the future.
Welcome back. Moving on, the conversation continues, and joining the conversation now is the Director General of the Nigerian Tourism Development Corporation. During the course of the week, Weekend had a chat with DJ, which is Foluronso Koka. Let's see this.
Tourism potentials of any nation transcend beyond tourism sites. Some tourists are fascinated by classic architectural designs, which can be found in almost every part of the country. Sadly, however, these historical monuments and heritage are gradually being pulled down for new structures, almost erasing our history as a people.
I was moved to tears when I was working in Lagos, and I tried to stop the actually, when I was here, tried to stop the demolition of a building, I think it's in Tinubu Square. Every brick in this building was brought over from Brazil. Every brick in this building. And there was really no reason I could think of bringing it down. We are destroying our cultural heritage in terms of bits of history that are so us, that are physical structures, monuments to the existence of those before us. I've asked myself, is it that we don't value what they did? Is it our hunger, our quest for the glamorous and the new? I've really found it difficult to answer those questions. But one of the things that I'm about to initiate is something called the Green Plaque. And that is to start to put, those blue plaques, this is where Herbert Macaulay lived. This is where Awolowo lived. This is where Tafawa Balewa lived. This is where Zik lived, in the hope that in identifying those places, maybe some sort of reverence, some sort of respect will be given to those places. And the hunger to destroy. Most of these people don't really build anything wonderful on the lands they destroy. They just sell it. So to identify and label cultural heritage sites, we're starting, maybe the third quarter of this year. And it's just a plaque. It's a sponsored plaque, and it will contain information about who, why that place is. We will also collaborate with Google on it, so that if your significant locations setting is on Google, you'll be able to see that place will pop up when you come to that proximity, when you come close to it. The only way now that we can truly preserve our heritage for generations and generations unborn to see is on digital platforms.
Art and architectural enthusiasts have cautioned that rather than pull down these architectural monuments and heritage, These structures could be preserved as tourist attraction or transformed by professionals without altering the aesthetic pleasure.
Most of the tourism assets we have in Nigeria are in the hands of state governments or sometimes the church or communities or private individuals. I can only encourage them to invest in the restoration, not the renovation, the restoration of some of these artifacts or historical sites. For example, Mary Slessor's house in Calabar should be restored, not renovated. Not, with a tub of brand new paint onto it and it has to be restored properly by somebody who understands the process of restoration of old wood. The Great Wall of Kano, fantastic place, but not in the condition that it used to be in. Can we restore it? We can't. But can we not damage it any further? Yes. The waterfalls in Gorara, in Owu, stop bleeding the headwaters. The waterfall is coming from an altitude from this height. They bleed the waters that are supposed to come in this raging rush. The pool in which it falls into, clean it up. The rock face, clean it up. Buy a small 5 kVA generator and some underwater lights. Light up the pool at night. Create toilets that you and I will be comfortable using. Write to the telcos to please provide signal there because there's now tourist traffic going there. Create a bush bar and restaurant where you can eat a local delicacy and drink some cold water. Ask some of the local artisans to create some artifacts that there's a little crafts market. All these are the little things that, you go to countries abroad. It's a variation of one of these things that you enjoy. But they are state assets. They are to be funded by state resources or local government resources because these assets belong to them. The days where the federal government had a pile of cash that it was just waiting to dole out, it's long gone. It's now about you doing the best with what you have where you are. There's a Great Wall of Benin. There's a Great Wall of Kano. There's Shumbu-Eredu, the great trench that runs from Ekpe to Benin. And they all have such rich pre-colonial histories to them. As best as we can, and with the festivals around those areas, we try and do a sounds and sights of, like the Abuja video that we did. And we try and tell the story and put it on the platforms to encourage people to go to this site. I have always been an advocate of domestic tourism, even before I got to Abuja. Domestic tourism is the backbone, it's the foundation on which international tourism of any sort will ever rest. If you don't consume more of Nigeria, more of your own, in terms of tourism assets, you will never push enough money through them for them to grow and strengthen and become popular to a level where internationals will pay attention and want to come and see it. Louis Vuitton did not just wake up and become an international brand. The French consumed it for long enough for it to be so Gucci, so Champagne, or whatever it is. And that's how we have to grow our own. I strongly believe that domestic tourism is on the rise. Domestic tourism is not by just my saying so, by the numbers, by the value. It's 6 times the size of international tourism. And when I look at the international tourists, how much really do they bring here to spend? What is the average spend of an international tourist compared to the bulk spend of a domestic tourist?
Some analysts are of the view that Nigeria can revamp her tourism sector and put in place the right legal framework to be a revenue earner for the nation.
Where we are now, we have growing assets, on digital platforms of Tour Nigeria. If you go to certain areas where we have interacted with them, you will see the philosophy of the brand, well received, and it's growing. It's the same things that need to be done that have not yet been done that I am still going to focus on achieving. Administratively, we've scored some successes in terms of part of the restructuring of the organization and NTDC, etc. And it hasn't been easy. But in terms of the corporate governance, the law still must be changed. You can't compete with Dubai that is now changing its laws to permit alcohol and unmarried couples to live in the same room in hotels. You can't compete with them with the laws we have. The laws that we have must take into consideration our contemporary concerns, our issues, and address them in a legal framework that allows businesses to thrive, that allows people to borrow and invest in tourism because it is a business. The laws are in both, the reviews of the laws are in both the taxation, the regulatory, and the legislative. Those things need to be looked at. Everybody is screaming about double taxation, not just even double, the weight of taxation on an industry that is struggling to survive. So those things need to be looked at. The welfare package of those working in the industry needs to be looked at. Training has never been more important in tourism, both in the application of disruptive digital technologies that are now what people are using to gain an advantage in tourism. The training for that is essential. Pretty much you need to have some health training to be able to understand COVID compliance. I mean, it's simple, but wear a mask, wash your hands. That's the bottom end of it. But when people's lives are in your hands, in hotels, restaurants, etc., you as owner and the people that manage it for you must have some sort of training in terms of what not to do and what to do. We need to invest in certain things. And I'm not talking about roads. The roads in Nigeria are far better than a lot of countries I have been into. The infrastructure of this country isn't where it should be. But thank God I am Nigerian and I have this kind of infrastructure. I'd rather be Nigerian than any other African for the value of the infrastructure that we have here. I mean, I am proud enough to say that. But we need to invest in tourism infrastructure that is tourism specific, like the tourism satellite account that allows us to measure certain things, like that little black box that they put your passport in that is controlled by Interpol. It needs to be in hotels, in all airports. I think it's in airports, but in all hotels, etc. We need to harness a lot more from digital sources, like from telecoms companies, from banks, from certain government agencies and the tax agencies. Extrapolate from those real, robust data sets, travel patterns, and be able to take decisions based on those. That is what everybody else around the world is using. They're not going to the border and counting how many people of color or non-Nigerians came across the border. That is archaic. But that is what, unfortunately, we have still been forced to practice here, but that ends now. We must go and look at the large data sources and let data speak to how we generate, how we modify policy to help tourism grow.
During their travels, colonialists built houses in familiar styles as a way of staying connected to their homelands. These houses were primarily reserved for the colonial administrators and became available to the local population at the end of colonialism. However, over the years, the houses were in some cases abandoned.
Nigeria is a city, is a country with tourism potentials, I must say. And talking about tourism potentials, we have messages they have been pouring. Let me start with this one. Good morning, Weekend Deal. I appreciate your efforts to expose Nigerians to historical monuments in several places in Nigeria. However, there are some in Abia State that are not popularized, like, oh, forgive my Hausa, this thing, Okuku Chuku Cave in Amankalu, Alai, where Ubina, Ukpabi. I know my Igbo brothers and sisters will mother me for mothering these names. Forgive me. Forgiven. Thank you very much. Whom our forefathers believed to be God the Creator lived before migrated to Arochukwu, where it is today called the Long Juju of Arochukwu by the colonial administration. This cave is mysterious and wonderful has mysterious and wonderful architectural rooms, parlors, shiny steams, and sands, which can serve as tourist sites to yield billions of dollars to Nigeria if properly popularized. This is coming from Dr. John Masilo Chukwu, who is the Deputy Provost Director, Federal College of Land Resources Technology, Owerri, Imo State. Yeah, very interesting. I think the importance of this program, you know,
people are discovering
exactly,
and bringing to light.
Please visit these places.
Monuments.
Another one here is saying we must embrace agri-tourism to develop our destinations to create wealth and employment for millions of youths. Coming from Ben Ogbonna, ecotourism expert. Another one here. I told you, people are pouring love here with this topic. Good morning, my people. I'm Ikukuma Na Njaba from Imo State. I love this program. Oh, we love you for loving this program. Good morning, presenters. This morning program is interesting. Thank you. You have refreshed my memory with the few places I have visited at Lagos and Calabar. Aisha, you need to take me to Kano to see such monuments. So this is coming from Isaac G from Plateau. Well, I don't have to take you. I think since you've visited Calabar, Lagos, you can do yourself good to also visit other places. That's why we're bringing this to you. Well, do still stay tuned as we take this break. When we come back, we serve you with more.
My name is Dr. Faisal Shuaib. I am the Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. Earlier today, I took my first shot of the AstraZeneca vaccine. Despite all of the delays, all of the doubts, here we are, Nigerians can finally access the vaccines. I hope that Nigerians will come out and get these vaccines because these vaccines are safe, they're effective, and they truly work. Over the course of the next few weeks, we have to continue wearing face masks, we have to do social distancing, but I know eventually once we're able to get herd immunity, then we'll be able to stop all of these non-pharmaceutical interventions. To get the vaccination, you should go to the MPHCDA website. There's a link on there that you click and you can register and schedule exactly where you want to get your vaccine.
Fulham travel to St Mary's after the heartbreak of relegation. Will they have any heart left to put up a fight against Southampton this Saturday? It's Southampton versus Fulham on the Premier League Live, showing on the network service of the NTA from 2:30 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Baba Ijebu in association with Goal.com.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, it is Weekend Deal, and our emphasis today has been on our monuments around the nation. But a little away from that now, it is time for trending videos.
You know if you're wise for Lagos, you know if you're wise for anywhere. Hola. Pussy peshe fag, ele fag tu baba fella.
Abdul Jabbar, happy Salah. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. I they come your house. I don't they come like this. You know they for Lagos. If I see your post yesterday now where you write for some Snapchat say Lagos way. Can I call like this? My native will not waste. My name Sadiq. Abdul Sadiq. Bros, how far now? Happy Salah, happy Salah, happy Salah. Amen. Where you Baba, they come your house like this and they see your gates. You know they live in Lagos. Who else can I call? Oh, Shamak. Alhaji Shamak. Alhaji Ibrahim. Happy Salah, happy Salah, happy Salah. Thank God for 30 days. Thank God. Funny enough, I was going somewhere, but I'm just near your gate. Let me just come in and say hello to the family and go. You know they for house. There's this thing that these Muslims do every Salah. I don't know. You just say meat now my problem. If I want to eat meat, I know where I'll get meat from. I'll go to the market and I'll buy 2,000 naira meat. I'll come home, I'll fry it, and I'll eat it. Now meat, they worry me. It isn't a dollar meat they do me. If I want your meat, I'll go buy meat, fry and for her. How much is meat?
You know they see? That's one kind of drive for you. I beg you, I know they drive. Not that time. Not they drive for this Lagos road. Get out. Ha! You sorry, okay, you two, you're all right. I know this kind of. I got some idea now, this one. Everybody come down from this side. Where's your boss? If you... Let's sit quick. Stand up. What kind of driving are you driving in this Lagos? Left that one. Left that tire. Okay. Papa, I think you left the one behind you first. You say? Left the one behind you first. Okay. What's your tire? What? And the tire now. You know what I hear what? You know? Oh my gosh. Papa. Shapa problem. You say new car. At the door. You are looking for me. Ah! Wow! Who is the daddy? Wow! The daddy. Who is the son? No, I'm the son. Wow! I'm the son, sir. That's who you are. Please, sir. Huh? Sir. Hippo. Please, sir. Huh? Sir. Babao. Please, sir. Kill. Hey! Sir, please, sir. Son! No. Sir, is your daddy? Daddy, talk to them now. I don't know. Papa. Sir? I'm not Pukuni. I'm not sitting in the car. See you. What was the Lord of Sharbarika for me?
Are they mad for you? Are they crazy?
Are they give me the donor?
They say are they good? But I am good for you. Good morning. Oh, good morning.
Well, we have messages pouring in, but now it's time for sports. So let's go with Godwin and Nakina. Well, before we go there, I think we need to take one message. But then, good morning, presenter. I enjoy the program. Keep it up to educate the young Nigerians, says Bulus Madaki. Thank you very much. And also another one here. Good morning, people of NTA. It is interesting to hear this. We have Mary Celeso Cutters in Itu, Akwa Ibom that needs to be limelighted. The place needs serious attention. Israel Achibong. Well, that's why we are here highlighting other places, and thank you for your contribution. Now we head to Godwin and Nakina.
Kano in stoppage time before half-time. This is Parler. Dixon, early cross. Oh, the flick from Kano, phenomenal.
I tell you, he's the highest scoring striker ever. For where? He doesn't have a higher score than...
It's easy to settle anything football with Google. Just open the Google app and type in your search. Now you can explore everything football, news, player profiles, stats, probabilities, and more.
I knew it. Hi. Yeah.
As the average Nigerian, when and why he started following Arsenal Football Club, one name will ring a bell. Kano Onwakwo. We can't forget him for all the sweet memories, all the reasons, and for making sure that a lot of Nigerians started following the Gunners as